Yeah, so thank you all for being here. Really appreciate your time. I apologize for if you tried to come a few weeks ago. When I originally booked this presentation, it was on Super Bowl Sunday. I clearly do not think very much about football, so I figured it would be better to reschedule this presentation. And so I appreciate you being here. This is a closer look at Zoom features. I am the current digital training chair. My name is Teresa Gerke. I'll go over a little bit about myself and we'll dive into today's presentation on Zoom features, artificial intelligence, and romance scams. 'Cause it happens all year round, not just on Valentine's Day. All right. I am the founder and CEO of PopCykol. It stands for Protecting Our Precious Curious Kids Online. We are a trusted online safety resource for families, and we provide valuable, timely, and factual information on how to protect your data and privacy. Our approach to learning is simple and fun, and we try to keep it really engaging. I also give presentations to nonprofit organizations, schools, and other corporations. Have a bachelor's degree in art history and anthropology from DU, a master's in genetic anthropology and international development from CSU. I studied network security at Arapahoe Community College in 2018 and 2019. So you might be wondering, how do you get from genetic anthropology to cybersecurity? And that's a great question. I'm a really good technical writer. That's really what my primary role is at work. And so I've been in cybersecurity since 2014, primarily as a technical writer, project manager, and customer experience or user experience designer, and currently work for a financial institution in cybersecurity governance. I was also an instructor at Arapahoe Community College in CU Boulder. In 2022, I was a nominee for Cybersecurity Woman of the Year by the United Cybersecurity Alliance. I joined NFBPWC in 2022. I'm the current president for BPW Denver, Colorado Virtual, and the digital training chair. Because of how great this organization is, I was also a United Nations delegate in March of 2023 and a keynote speaker at the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women. And so that was a really wonderful learning experience. That particular theme was around digital innovation. And my presentation, which is on our NFBPWC website, or excuse me, YouTube channel, is about how cybersecurity promotes gender equality. So I hope you'll check that out. So I don't know if any of you have seen this video. It's one of my favorites. But this is what can happen when you're on Zoom. Uh, I'll forward this.
Are we supposed to be hearing the audio?
Oh, do you not hear it?
No.
Oh, okay. The Zoom must
Um,
be a setting on the Zoom, but that's okay. He's got a filter on and he's like, I'm not a cat. It's on YouTube. But we always want to just, be aware, it's always good to like do a pre-check, which is what I did even before this meeting. I should have pre-checked my videos. But we always want to just be very mindful of, you know, how we're setting up our Zoom and check things before we actually start, which was my bad, but I'll just go ahead and move on. Yes. So we have different settings. I'm going to talk about audio settings. So there's this little arrow or caret. So when you click on that, It takes you to different microphone and speaker settings. And then this is you can actually test your speaker and microphone. And then, so it's pretty self-explanatory, and you can kind of play with how you want your microphone, if it's from your computer or you have peripheral like a microphone, you know, uh, plugged into your actual computer. So you can change the settings here. You can also go to the general settings and again, you can test your speaker, change the volume. Um, and then I like that there's a setting for audio profile, and you can change the background noise suppression. Auto is typically fine for these types of meetings that we have, like even with BPW. Um, so that's where you can do some additional uh, testing of your speaker microphone or change some of your audio settings. You can also change the ringtone. I like the feature where you can automatically join audio by your computer when you join. And I'm really sensitive to sound, so I always mute my microphone when joining. I don't play any of the extra bings and bongs that Zoom allows you to play because I find it very distracting personally. But you can change any of these settings in audio. And then for video settings, you can also change your camera settings. So it's not just the camera that's on your computer. You can have other, again, peripherals with, like for audio, you can have your own microphone or your own webcam. So you can adjust those settings there. And some of the information that I gathered from Zoom provides information about how you download an image or video, and what are the different kind of dimensions or formats that you can use, including GIF and different kinds of JPEG images or PNG files, and what are the kind of ratios or resolution that you could have for either images or videos. And so, again, when you go to your preferences in the settings menu, you can change that under background and filters. And I am going to go over the different kinds of background filters and virtual backgrounds in just a minute. But again, this is if I go off camera, you'll see this again as a virtual background. You can also add some fun to your call with different virtual backgrounds, filters, and things like that. And again, we will dive into this a little bit more. You can also touch up your appearance. I've already done that on Zoom. So if I go back on camera, I updated and kind of touched up my appearance because I did not feel very good today and looked very tired. So I did touch up my appearance by adjusting kind of the smoothness of my skin and adjusted the light as well. If I go back on camera, you can notice that. So when we go under our video settings, again, this is where you can mirror your video, you can touch up your appearance, adjust for low light, and then portrait lighting is kind of interesting because it's a slightly different than a blur, which is under virtual backgrounds. This one does a blur kind of around your face, where this is a whole background blur. So your face is much more clear than if you have a blur background um, setting. Again, virtual backgrounds, it gives you some kind of um, template, images. I've seen the beach a lot. I downloaded the this background in the back as a virtual background. When you have video filters, you can actually choose any of these video filters, and they give you a sense of like either coolness or warmth in the background of your video, or then there's ones that are kind of like playful. Um, Studio effects, these are eyebrows. mustache and beard. Lip color is kind of an interesting one. This is one that matches my lip shade pretty well. And you can also change the opacity as well. Uh, so avatars is another one. If you click on the plus button, you can actually open up all the different settings. So I tried to actually match my avatar to that picture of my headshot a few slides back. So you can change uh, eyebrow shape and hair color, hairstyle, shape of your face, add closing, just like you would with like a Bitmoji or something like that that we use kind of typically on our mobile device. This is also kind of a nice one. If you have a big group meeting, under video settings, you have something called immersive view, which is at the top right. And you can change this to like a table or a concert hall or a conference room so that you can see multiple people in a sitting or seated arrangement. So that's kind of a nice thing to have. And you can also change backgrounds as well. So let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence or AI. Zoom has a new feature called AI Companion 2.0. With this, you can kind of engage artificial intelligence by asking different questions, getting different kinds of summaries and feedback, discussion points from the actual meeting itself. And um, let's see, it looks like to better understand who's who in a large meeting, users can use AI Companion to get more information about contacts. I've never used that feature, but I assume that you can do that. Um, this is kind of interesting. You can ask facts to the AI companion. I did that in the next one of the next slides here, so I can show you what that looks like. And then you can also ask questions about what took place in the meeting and get kind of a recap. So it can summarize your meeting. There are some considerations that we'll talk about in a minute about those summaries. Again, it can summarize email messages in the chat. Um, can give you a summary of what you discussed, any action items. If your name was used in the meeting, it can also indicate like what that what that was about in particular. This is the icon for the AI companion. Here you can see how many participants are in the meeting. This is your chat. It'll also indicate how many new chats are um, being shared in the chat. Under reaction, you have your typical hearts and high fives and thumbs up, and you can raise your hand using the react, the share button, host tools that include things like muting and participation and admitting people to also recording. Sometimes the record button is under host tools. Just depends on what kind of version of Zoom you have. And then here's the AI companion button. So let me give you a little information about that. So when you click on that AI companion button, then you'll have this pop up, and then it gives you kind of some default uh, questions or comments. So, catch me up. Are there any action items? What topics have been discussed? Was my name mentioned? So, then here looks like there's a paper clip for an attachment, and then you can write a message. So, I typed in here, what is NFBPWC? And then the AI companion will respond to my inquiry. And this is what it brought up. Again, when you click on the uh, cog icon right here, the setting icon, another pop-up appears. And so you can then It asks who can ask questions about this meeting's transcript. So if that's an option that you have to transcribe, that can be helpful. I used it the other day at work, and this transcription wasn't great. So there are some caveats to using a transcription, but it can be helpful when you kind of need to get an idea of something, but transcriptions aren't always perfect. So just be mindful of that if you use it. Um, and then who will receive a summary after this meeting? So these are turned on because they're toggled on, but I think it's important to be mindful when you're using something like this that it will send you information after the meeting. So if there's any kind of sensitive information or there's kind of personally identifiable information that you talk about in the meeting, it will still gather that information. And so I think it's always a best practice for only the meeting host to obtain the transcript or the summary before it gets emailed out to people in case there was that confidential or sensitive information that was shared, even like during the meeting or post meeting, because sometimes that's captured after the meeting's complete, and maybe you're talking to another coworker, and that would just be it would be not great if there was sensitive information that got sent out to all the attendees of the meeting. So I would always kind of err on kind of the least privilege, which would be only meeting hosts, and then that meeting host can then go in and check all of the transcription or the summary and make sure that everything is true and accurate and doesn't contain any personal information. And then that person can send out either the transcription or the summary. And then romance scams, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, they don't happen just around Valentine's Day. They can happen anytime around the holidays or anytime that we're online. They're also called sweetheart scams, and they really involved the use of online dating. And so a bad actor will create a fake online profile and tries to engage with a potential victim online and just kind of charm them and be very flirtatious, but it's really the end game is that the scammer is asking for money. um, so it's just something to be very wary about. I think working in cybersecurity, there are a lot of people who are vulnerable, and doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship, but it's just something that you have to be aware of when you are either in a public place online and are aware of like who you are coming in contact with. So we want to pay attention to some red flags. So romance scammers try to be convincing as possible, which can include artificial intelligence powered deep fake videos and audio technology like phishing. So the deep fake videos, I think the most uh, popular ones that I can think of are the Tom Cruise deep fake videos. If you've seen any of those on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, it's a character who very much looks like Tom Cruise, and so then he masks his face to actually look like Tom Cruise, and that's been a pretty convincing deep fake video. Vishing is a form of social engineering, like phishing, where phishing is an email. Vishing is a phishing through phone calls and voice messages. So, also something that needs to be really considered because with the use of AI, the voice can be mimicked pretty spot on. It's really can be really scary. That happens not just with romance scams, but often with grandparent scams, where a vishing happens to a grandparent and they think it's their grandchild who's been arrested or they're in jail or they got stuck in a country and they need money and they don't want their parents to know because they're afraid they'll get in trouble, and then the grandparent is sending them money. Only to kind of be duped and it's really going to a cyber criminal. So the person requests money for urgent matters, like I mentioned, such as medical expenses or plane ticket to see you. Never send money to someone you haven't met in person. The person requests hard to track forms of payment like preloaded gift cards or something like cryptocurrency. So, an example would be Bitcoin or Ethereum. Those are kind of the big two. If you hear of some other kind of cryptocurrency, it's probably not very popular. It's not, you can still not, it's hard to track. So, I don't recommend doing that because like I said, it's hard to track. The person claims to live far away from you, often in a foreign country or in the military and serving overseas. Um, the person breaks promises to see you in person. So maybe they've booked their flight, but now something tragic has happened and really they can't see you. So then they ask for money again to try to get that new plane ticket. It's just a play on your emotions. It's really just a way for them to get um, money from you. And I was at an event, a STEM event. I was judging a engineering fair, and one of the people who came up to my booth, my popsicle booth, said, "Yeah, my grandmother um, gave money to person and wiped out their entire life savings." So it's not just like an idea of romance scams; it's like happening every day. The person wants to push the conversation from the dating app to other messaging platforms like WhatsApp or Signal or Telegram, maybe even something like Discord. So, um, I think it's always safe to say that they're trying to do that. They're trying to be nefarious and malicious and really kind of hide their true identity. And then the relationship feels like it's moving really fast. So they want to kind of entice you as quickly as possible and just kind of fall head over heels in love with you. It's not legitimate. So if you suspect uh, your loved one as a victim of romance scams, or a number of different things you can do. Obviously, stop communicating with the scammer. Note any identifiable information you may have received from them, such as their email address or phone number. Always document and take screenshots, write down any contact information. Contact your bank or credit card company if you've been scammed out of money. Want to kind of reiterate that, like, they are making they are making you to feel a certain way, and you shouldn't feel ashamed that this person tried to entice you to do something like you are feeling a certain way. However, you know, they're also committing a crime. And you should file a report with your local police department, report the scam to the FTC and FBI, alert the website, especially if it's like a dating app website or the platform or app where you met the scammer. They might have information on the scammer, like an IP address, maybe, or other identifiable information that can help investigators. And really, what that scammer is also doing is they're not abiding by terms and conditions or a code of conduct or privacy policies. So that's kind of another thing that if law enforcement gets involved, that's another thing that kind of like dings them for like not following certain rules on being online. And then for, Popsicle on our website, we have um, what we call a Popsicle tip, which is essentially a 1 or 2 page guide about different cybersecurity awareness topics. And we have one on catfishing. And so there are some links to that coming up. And so that's kind of the end of the presentation. Again, this is the way you can contact me, and I'm going to open this up for questions. But we have our website. We're on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're on Facebook, but we're not really present very much there. And then I do have these links to additional information about what we learned today on Zoom. And Zoom also has its own YouTube channel, which you can always refer back to. This is a safe QR code that connects you to PopCykol and to our different sites, or to book with us or anything like that. So I will stop. Oh, I'll just leave this up. What questions do people have for me?
I don't know if I don't really so much have a question, but I definitely agree with some of the information you were talking about. I put a comment in the chat about the summaries from AI. Uh,
Hmm. I've had
Definitely.
summaries include
Sometimes,
false information. It would have been very
yeah,
bad. So, oh yeah.
I mean,
So one of the things that AI does is called hallucinations. Hallucinations are kind of like fake information that's out there. Like you ask, you know, a question to like a chat GPT or Claude, which is another AI, and it gives you information like that doesn't exist. So, yeah, I mean, there's like I said, there's always a caveat. Like you have to be really careful. You have to verify your information to make sure that it's actually correct. Or, kids using ChatGPT for a book report, and there's like the book doesn't really exist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually talking about a summary from a meeting
Mm.
where it included information that wasn't actually in the meeting, even when
Oh,
you listen to the recording and stuff. It got some of the information wrong. That's the first part. And the second part is the AI companion and doing the meeting summaries is still so new. And I've run into this myself, where you may finish a meeting and then you continue to talk one on one with somebody, or you're talking with them before the meeting starts.
hmm.
And it's documenting things that maybe weren't either for the meeting or for public consumption. So,
Right.
yeah, it's very good to stick with just the meeting host getting the information first and then making sure that it's correct. Um, there was another company name, and I was looking for it. I can't seem to find it. When you were saying people asking you to go to a different, um, like from those romance scams, but this
Hmm.
was like a business scam, and this other company that has somehow a communication network, and it looks very legitimate. And it wasn't from a romance scam; it was a business thing. But the most bizarre part of this messaging system is it's supposed to be set up for businesses, but it's actually a once you get in there, you can't get out. Like you can't remove your information or you can't not stay connected to it. And I actually got into that with my photography business. I was communicating about something, and I actually had to go in and create a different owner name that was just to extricate my official business from that. It was so there's
Hmm.
it's interesting the stuff that is out there. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
went down that path.
No, it's fine.
What about updating um, your Zoom? How often should we be looking to do that? Because I know they have updates.
Often, if Zoom apps have an update, they have
Uh-huh.
found a vulnerability. So then it is best to, well, let me rephrase that. If the Zoom app has an update, it might be a vulnerability, or it might be that they have maybe fixed a bug or have improved a feature. So that I think is always good to run that update, especially if
Gotcha.
there's a security update. Always, always run your patches on any app or any
Okay,
computer that you have because there's a reason the vendor has pushed that to you. So you should
okay,
always run your patches and install the updates.
gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions? I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Hi there, Teresa. This is Cynthia. I just am wondering if you'll share the slides. I was trying to go into Zoom as you were talking and I got out of sync really quickly, so I gave up and just paid attention. But I'd like to try and walk through some of those steps of doing the background adjustments and those kinds of things. So I'm wondering if you'll share that at some point.
Yes, I am going to share. Barbara, is it better if I send the PowerPoint to you to share with the people who signed up? Because I got a message from, uh, let's see here, Christine and somebody else from Montreal. They said that they were not able to join, page not found,
Yep,
and the link wasn't working.
that's right. I just populated the meeting code and the password into my own Zoom login, and that's how I got into the meeting. And also